welcome to Let's Play Gran Turismo 3, episode 106. Alright, we have completed part 1 of the Polyphony Digital Cup, which is races 1 to 4, and for this segment we are now going to do part 2, which is races 5 to 7. And I did of course mention that this would be a 3-part championship. So, we are already 4 races in, and well, the only thing I can really say is that, well, I keep lapping the field, basically. And so, let's now do more or less the same again, and where, for this segment, we are starting in Seattle. Let's see how tolerance goes. Keep in mind, of course, that I already have a 16-point lead over the Nissan Z up to this point, so I really don't think I care too much about how the rest of the championship is going to go, as long as I can manage to at least win the remaining races. Then obviously it means, of course, I do not have to do any races over again, because tuning for this event, like it is for the Trial Mountain Endurance, unfortunately is unpermitted for this event, so I really am hoping that I can manage to get these remaining races over with by winning them. Although, even though I do have the speed to do it, it just depends on knowing, of course, if this championship in particular necessarily has the driver to do it. Oh shit, that's a ball. But again, it doesn't matter because I'm still leading at the end of lap 1 anyway. And already it looks as though the field has pretty much been decided up to this point. I am already out in front with a relatively comfortable lead at the moment, and I almost clipped the inside wall there of that death chicane. And yes, there are many of us GT gamers who do dub that as being the death chicane whenever we drive on the reverse course of Seattle, because that is literally how deadly that final chicane is. Literally the rotation just changes completely once you're entering the corner in reverse. It just tends to, you know, change completely from what it usually would be. And I really don't care what happens up to this point, as long as I can eventually win the remaining races by the time we are done with this. And oddly enough, the Z at the moment is actually keeping up with me. As in, like, the Nissan Z is actually not letting me walk away with this one for the moment. Probably because the AI have stronger competency around this circuit than they did Route 5. And this could be the first race where I don't overlap the entire field. I mean, I think up to this point, since that's basically all I've really been doing in the championship up to this point, and I still cannot get through that chicane properly, which is the main reason why a lot of us call it the death chicane, because that's virtually what I think that corner is. just literally a suddenly canonical rotation change once you're into the corner. It's like the elevation just changes completely once you're through there into the corner. You literally have to throw the car into the left-hand side to actually make it through the chicane at speed. Which, oddly enough, I would like to remind you is something that I still consider to be treacherously and notoriously difficult to do. And already the top three, with myself included, have now pulled away from pretty much the Skyline and the two Mitsubishis. So already up to the completion of lap 3. And already it appears as though up to this point, like, I will probably end up being once again the dominator, and this time I actually managed to survive the death chicane, and it only took me 3 full laps to do so for the first time. And dependent on knowing if I'm going to be able to do that 16 more times as the rest of this race progresses, I would say that is probably not going to be the case. And even if the racing itself may not necessarily be enjoyable up to this point, the truth is, I can still say that overall, whilst this is basically a championship of pretty much all or nothing for each of these 10 races, one thing I've realised is that it's not necessarily because of the commentary that I use to encourage my viewers to watch me, it's because of, I think, the many different cars that I tend to use. And by the way, I would like to remind you that I do tend to use many different cars in this game overall. Alright, so 4 laps are now clicked off the board, and we still have 16 to go before this race has officially been decided, as I am now pretty much 10 seconds clear of the Nissan Z, but again, lap after lap, because my car is that much more superior than the AI, I would imagine it's only going to be a matter of time before I end up overlapping the field once again. Which overall is basically something that I've been doing pretty much race after race up to this point. Although oddly enough, the lap time I set previously, that was much faster than the lap times I've been setting. Probably because I haven't been pushing the needle right to the limits. For most of this race. Alright, 11 seconds now to the Nissan Z. Am I going to end up winning this event? Probably. But am I going to make any guarantees in saying that I'll overlap the entire field? No. But am I definitely going to win this race? Yes. That is pretty much undeniable up to this point, because of how much more because of how much more pace this car has in comparison to the rest of the field. And even though for you as the viewers it may not necessarily be entertaining, the truth is, I really don't have a lot of time at the moment. In terms of the things I get to do outside my college work. So, like I said before, the main reason why I chose the Viper is because, well, I wanted to get this championship done with as soon as I could. I mean, I didn't necessarily use one of the cars in my garage because, well, that would have made it look too easy. And even though I am making it look easy already, the truth is, I would personally think up to this point, like, I would have known overall that I would have ended up dominating the championship anyway, because any car that I have with basically 300 horsepower or more, I would have probably dominated the championship anyway, because I would have had the tyre mileage to prove my domination. And I just hit it. I cannot keep it off the wall. I really tried my hardest to keep it off the wall, but unfortunately in the end I did not prosper. Unfortunately. At the moment, I'm just driving terribly at the moment. I just cannot get the consistency I need to actually pull off a reasonable lap at the moment. And, oh shit! Why did I shift down to first? I knew that was going to happen eventually. Guess what? I spun the car, as I very much knew I was going to do eventually. Come on, don't spin again, don't spin again, don't spin again. Okay. Okay. I kept it straight this time. I did not spin under the circumstances that I did just moments ago. And the reason why I'm short shifting for these jumps as well, because those are some large ass jumps, pretty much regardless of whichever way you look at the circuit. I would say overall those are pretty much, you know, some large ass jumps that I have to contend with. Although, oddly enough at the moment, I think that's probably the first time I've actually spun the car around. At least, I think it's the first time since Trial Mountain that I've actually spun the car around, so I am actually surprised it's taken me this many races to spin the car around. Although that doesn't necessarily mean I can just keep doing it. Of course, the truth is, Seattle is not necessarily one of my favourite circuits in the game. I mean, it's an okay circuit, yes, but I prefer to drive on the forward course than I do the reverse course. Because, well, my god, that first corner, it just literally wants to slaughter you. If you make even the slightest of mistakes. Although pretty much any sports car with over 250 horses I'd use would have pretty much dominated this championship anyway, but, you know, because of the little time I have at the moment, basically the main purpose of myself using the Viper is just so I can get this championship done with as soon as possible, because surprisingly, I do have a life outside of my desk chair and my TV. And I'm not just talking about my college education when I talk about that. And I fucked up the entry again. Guess who is not concentrating? Probably should be. The person is me, by the way. So just moving my chair forward so I can actually just focus on my TV. And also remembering to blink so that my eyes don't burn. And I think from this I might need to set a string of faster slaps, you know, a string of laps where I'm actually trying to set a reasonable lap, which at the moment is something I'm not doing very well. And I'm pretty sure this race will take me more than half an hour to get through because I'm already at the 15-minute mark and I'm just coming off the completion of lap number 9 in this championship. And I'm hoping from here I can manage to set a string of good laps, although I'm not doing that very well at the moment because I forget to brake it because I'm braking too late for the chicane. I just literally have to keep fucking up that first chicane, which is probably the main reason why I don't like driving Seattle reverse. I don't mind the forward course. The forward course is okay, but the reverse course is just a complete elevation change to the original course, if I'm being completely honest. And it's an elevation change that I really don't like too much. If I'm being completely honest. I mean, there are certain things about the reverse course that I don't mind, but again, there are also certain things that I dislike about the reverse course. I mean, Seattle is not one of my particular favourite circuits in this game overall, but again, at the very least I can definitely say it's a course in this game that beats test course by a long way. In terms of, you know, primarily being a more enjoyable circuit to drive on. I mean, the forward course is okay, but the reverse course is just literally torture if you make one mistake. Because literally, if you fuck up one corner on this circuit, you're basically just going to fuck up the rest of the lap, essentially. And that really is something you cannot correct on the reverse course, which probably is the main reason why I hate it so much. But again, at the very least I can still say that it beats racing a test course. Because if I'm being completely honest, I absolutely hate test course. I just completely loathe over its primary existence of literally everything an oval circuit is meant to be. Everything that an oval circuit should not be. Literally one of very few courses I can think of that's even more boring and dreary to drive than the Talladega Superspeedway, essentially. Well, at least that's the way Rhino GT4 would put it. And I can definitely see why. Because I mean, test course primarily is just a terrible track to race on. I mean, you're basically just going foot to the floor. Because you're basically just going fucking foot to the floor for like pretty much every single lap you set. You just literally know for sure there is no escape. From the rhythm of test course. Once you get a lap in, you're basically just going foot to the floor for pretty much the whole lap. And to anyone who is asking what exactly the Talladega Superspeedway is, well, it's basically an extended version of the Daytona International Speedway. And I do mean the Daytona Oval when I say that, I don't mean the road course. Well, at least I can say, that Daytona does have a road course as well as a dirt course, whereas Talladega does not. Considering it's the only real nationalised racetrack in pretty much the whole of Alabama, and I do mean the state of Alabama when I say that. I mean, I wouldn't mind travelling over to Alabama. It certainly wouldn't be a state. It would certainly be a state that I wouldn't mind going to if I was wanting to have an experience of what a rodeo looks like. Even though I would probably have to go to Texas for that, you know. There are probably a couple of different parts in America I wouldn't mind travelling to. I mean, obviously not this year, because, well, I still think infection rates at the moment in America regarding COVID are still very high, but again, I actually wouldn't mind going to America sooner or later. Although one of the first states I'll probably end up going to once I manage to get the money for it is probably New York. Well, the reason why I wouldn't travel over to Seattle is technically because, well, Seattle's in Washington. Even though I wouldn't mind going over to see the Space Needle, which is basically what that is, all the way up there in the background. I'm pretty sure that's the Space Needle that I see from that shot there. Although I really don't know which part of Washington Seattle is in, but I'm pretty sure I could see the Space Needle right there. At least I just saw it on the right hand side. And literally, both the Mitsubishis were just pushing each other into the pits. Meanwhile, I am out here, and also the skyline has now been overlapped, and in the space of just 13 laps up to this point, I have already overlapped most of the field. And I'm pretty sure for the remaining 7 laps of this race, I will probably overlap the rest of the field also, once the final pit stops have been made. Anyways, 13 laps are now done, and we still have 7 remaining this time around. But yeah, I mean, if I ever do end up travelling to America, there probably are a number of different things that I wouldn't mind going to see. And one of those things in particular probably would be the Statue of Liberty, maybe even Central Park. And I am not concentrating. Yep, okay, this is where it starts to fall apart. This is where I start setting a string of inconsistent laps, but somehow still being faster than the rest of the field. Although, dependent on knowing if I'll actually be able to overlap the Nissan Z before the end of this race, that probably remains a mystery. Although the truth is, I knew very well that from once I started this championship with the Viper, I knew I was basically going to dominate each of these races anyway, and he is now in the pits. And I'm going to assume that will probably be both his second and final pit stop of the day. I don't think I'm going to catch him before his pit stop is done, and then once I have managed to do that, I will probably be, again, one lap ahead of the entire field, which is basically what I have been doing more or less race after race up to this point. Shit. Why can I not get through that chicane? Am I literally that much of a fucking dunce just to that fuckface of a chicane? Someone tell me I'm not a fucking dunce to that chicane. Because that's basically what it feels like. It basically feels like I'm being a dunce. To that one fucking chicane. I wish it could stop. Even though it probably won't. Because I still have to do another 4 fucking laps around this circuit before this race is done. And furthermore, yes, I still very much object to the existence of that chicane on the reverse course. It's virtually the one corner on this entire course that I hate the most. Subsequently speaking. Alright. I've just got 4 laps to go now. This time, I'm not taking any chances through the chicane. I'm just getting on the brakes and downshifting, so that I do not end up repeating the mistakes that I've been reprising for basically the past fucking... God, what is it? 13 laps? Although I still make a mistake anyway, because, well, I have got to be honest, the reverse course in this game is much harder to master than the normal course. I mean, the normal course does have its flaws, obviously, but again, this is an entirely different animal to master, or to tame, I should say. Because that's exactly what I think this is. This is just a completely different animal to tame. And I just hit that mistake. And Going down the inside. Don't really think I made too much contact with him. With my fellow snack. And fortunately, I now have just 3 laps to go in this race. And then once I have done this, I will only have just one part of this championship to go. Alright, 3 to go. And my fellow snack is in the pits as I once again fuck up the chicane. And oh, fuck me. Wow. I did not think I was going to avoid going head-on into the tyre barriers. I was pretty sure that once I saw those tyre barriers, that was literally going to be a straight-up headlong shot. As like, I was not going to avoid that no matter what. No matter what I was able to do. Well, the reverse course is annoying, but at the very least, it still beats driving around test course, which realistically is the one course that I still hate the most. And if I keep crashing like this, then I am pretty sure that I will not be able to overlap. The Nissan Z before the end of this race. Although, typically, if you are trying to master this course at speed, which is basically what I'm trying to do, then you pretty much know very well that this course is going to be more or less an entirely different animal to tame. Although oddly enough, of course, I was able to tame the normal course for 40 laps in my Chevy Corvette GS when I did the Seattle 100 miles, which realistically is only about 94 miles in terms of length, in terms of overall length. Ah, for fuck's sake. Can I please put in a representable lap time that does not show me crashing every fucking where I turn? Which basically appears to be the only thing that I'm really doing right now. And that's a curb. Should not have bounced on that. And to anyone who is asking me what I've mainly been doing in this race besides dominating, is well, crashing. But again, because I'm literally in that much of an OP car compared to the AI, that's literally the only reason why I've been dominating this event under the circumstances that I have. Literally the only reason why I've managed to dominate this much. Anyways, final lap. And I'm going to do the same strategy that I used before. And went a little bit too deep there on the entry, but again, I still kept it in 4th gear, and I did manage to prosper in the end of that. At least that is without burning any valves on the motor. And I don't think I'm going to overlap the Nissan Z before this race is over. I really don't think that's going to be the case. I mean, I will try and see if I can overlap him, but at the moment, it's not looking too promising for me to do that. But again, I don't tend to necessitate if I either will or won't fill out my requisites over knowing if I either will or won't be successful in overlapping the entire field, because the only thing I really care about doing is racing. And I don't think I'm going to overlap him, but it is going to be a valiant effort if I do. And I might just be able to, superior speed. And it looks like I am going to. I have just overlapped the Nissan Z right before the end of the race, and right before we started the final lap. Alright, there we go. Everyone has finished. And it looks as though the striped Evo 6 managed to beat the RS Evo 6 in the end of that battle, but these are now the updated points, as of which we are now at the halfway point of the Polyphony Digital Cup. And so it's more or less looking like all the other positions up to this point have been decided, but dependent on knowing what will happen, of course, between 5th and 6th, as we have yet another tiebreaker for 5th. We will just have to wait and see what happens, but I'm pretty sure every other position besides that has already been covered. And well, because I saved a replay at Seattle more recently, I really don't see any point in saving another one. Though I could save a replay at Apricot Hill if I really wanted to, but well, we'll just have to wait and see what happens. Anyways, race number 6. And it takes place at Apricot Hill. Already at the start, I am starting to win. And I think I just caused my fellow snack to run wide there. And I do accept responsibility for that. Probably because I'm driving this thing on cold tyres, but again, at the moment, of course, it doesn't look as though the Cobra has fallen too far behind us. I mean, he has fallen behind the pack, but I would imagine it won't be too long before he manages to catch up and overtake the RS Evo 6. And at the moment, of course, the striped Evo 6 is, or was, holding on to second position. So he was actually trying to see if he could go for it. Although I'm pretty sure he will not hold on to third position much longer, because the Mustang is starting to close in once again. And I would think by the time pit stops have happened, the Mustang probably will be back into contention once pit stops have happened, as I now once again take the lead at the end of the first lap. Pretty much a string that I've had more or less since the start of the championship, where I've basically been taking the lead within the first 2 laps and then just basically holding on to the lead ever since. So, first lap is done, still 19 to go, and will I manage to successfully squeeze in a good lap? We shall wait and see. But again, I'm pretty sure laps around here will be better than they were at Seattle, because Apricot Hill is an easier circuit to tame, than Seattle. And I'm also pretty sure that the circuit also won't be too much of an ordeal to get around. I would think it'll take me just over half an hour to get this race done. Potentially 32 minutes. Before this is done. And now, of course, I'm just going to continue to set some personal bests. Or try my hardest to set some personal bests. Which is what my main objective is. And even though I'm not necessarily a pessimist under these regards, I can certainly say that sooner or later I probably will spin the car again, at least before the end of this championship. Even then, of course, if I am basically on domination run, which is pretty much what I have been on since more or less the first super license event I did, which is basically like the wind, because, well, I pretty much won that event by 2 laps over the speed 12, because that is literally just how dominant I was in that race overall. Fortunately, however, the only thing I really have to focus on now is just more or less keep winning, as I have been doing for pretty much every super license event I've done so far, or every super license race I've done so far. So yeah, I think because Apricot Hill is more of a measurable circuit to get around than Seattle, that's probably the main reason why I am managing to get around this circuit so well, is what he thinks. So, you know, that is something important I should probably note. So, I think I'll set one more quick lap. After this, and then once I've done that, I'll basically just start taking it easy. Because even though I know very well these tyres will last up to the end of the race, it just depends on knowing, of course, if the driver feels confident enough to go up to the end of the race. And I'm hopeful in saying that he is. And by the way, when I say the driver, I do, of course, refer to me. But yeah, I do have a good car, and quite possibly the most dominant car in the field, if I'm being completely honest. And I would think up to this point, that already tyre wear is starting to take its toll. On the drivers as it currently stands. As both the Nissan Z and the Mustang are now both in the pits, and I think that's also allowed the Skyline to move up into second position. And it looks as though the Mustang is coming out of the pits now. And yes, that does now elevate the Skyline up to second position. And I am hopeful in saying that this will ultimately be the event that more or less gives me my records. Although oddly enough, that was a much faster time I set there compared to my previous lap time, or at least compared to the lap I set on the 4th lap, because I set a 1:29.9 and then the following lap I set a 1:29.1, so I think that pretty much just goes to show how much easier it is to get around to this circuit than Seattle. I mean, I've always liked driving around Apricot Hill. It's basically been, under many circumstances, a driver's circuit. And you actually feel like the smooth flow of a road course like this one just feels like it actually wants to stay with you. Although, unfortunately, however, we still have 4 races to go after this one. But up to this point, I do have some confidence in saying that I will manage to make it up to the end of the race before too long. Meanwhile, I am still continuing to set personal best after personal best every so often. Because I've now gone much faster again. This time, myself setting a 1 minute 28.5. I think it's more or less up to this stage in the race where I can pretty much relax. I mean, tyre wear does tend to play quite a large role around a circuit like this one. But oddly enough, tyre wear is not as abrasive on this track surface as it is at Gran Valley. So, I would think I will manage to get this car up to the end of the race on this set of boots. But it just depends on it just depends on knowing if I feel like I can actually get up, to the end of the race overall. We'll just have to wait and see to be sure, but you know. So, completing lap number 8 now here on the circuit, and I still have another 12 laps to go before this race is done. I think from this point onwards I don't really need to push any harder. I mean, I know for sure I'm going to overlap most of the field by the end of the next lap, as I now overlap the Evo 6 RS. And personally, I would think up to this point, I really don't have any opposition to challenge me, so this is more or less going to be another easy dub, because they've basically just been coming to me whenever I've started a race with this car. And the striped Evo 6 just ran wide up there, and this could be just what he needs to potentially secure him 5th position in the championship, but dependent on knowing if he'll actually be able to do it or not, that remains to be seen. Okay, so my lap times at the moment are more or less looking reasonable, as of which both the Mitsubishis are now in the pits once again. They're pretty much duking it out for themselves up to this point, because I would probably say the rest of the championship up to this point has more or less been decided. And is the Skyline still running in second? Or is it the Z that's running in second? Okay, it's the Z. Okay, never mind. Anyways, overlapping the Mustang once again, because I am clearly the more superior snack in this field than the Cobra, unfortunately. And I think the Skyline at the moment, as a result of him having the more superior tyres, he has technically moved himself up to 3rd position, I think, as a result of both his fellow Nissan, the Z, and also the Ford basically making their pit stops earlier in the race. But again, at the very least, we can still say they're far enough ahead of both the Mitsubishis, and I just got the chicane. And it wouldn't surprise me if the stewards are gonna look into that accidental cutting we made. Although, fortunately, however, stewards don't exist in this sort of racing, and even if they did, I still think I would manage to win the race itself by an entire lap anyway, because that is literally how much more dominant I've been compared to the rest of the field. And even though the Skyline for a majority has not necessarily looked like a challenger to the Mustang for a certain number of races, the truth is, the Skyline still tends to have the superior tyre mileage, and oddly enough, I would think in a way that is exactly what has been managing to keep him up there in the hunt for 3rd position along with the Mustang. And I'm pretty sure the Z will rejoin in 2nd position. Don't think the Skyline is going to take that one away, especially considering that's how much quicker the Z is in comparison. And I think after this, I only really have to do one more race, and then once I've done that, I can conclude this part of the championship. I'm also pretty sure that I'm probably going to end up overlapping. Excuse me. I'm also pretty sure that up to this point I'm going to end up overlapping both of the Evo 7s, potentially twice in this event. Although ironically enough, the Mustang has not necessarily looked competitive enough to fight for 3rd position, because the Cobra has just really not been there to fight amongst the 2 Nissans. I would say by now they are pretty much, you know, long gone in terms of the opportunities the Cobra might have of taking 3rd position. But again, he has managed to move up to 4th at the very least. And I would think if he can keep doing this consistently, well, manage to finish on the podium consistently, then he may be able to take 3rd position in the championship. Although, as far as I know, for 1st and 2nd, I would say probably after the next race, I think. Let's see. Okay, so I have 60 points after this round, and Z would have 30 points. So if I can win one more race, then yeah, I will have officially clinched the championship with 3 races remaining. Mathematically speaking, if I score a point or above. Although then again, this championship would have more or less been piss easy anyway because of pit stops. For any car that I used, which has over 250 horsepower. Keep in mind, of course, that obviously I am also using a car with a V10 engine, so technically overall, I really don't see any reason on why exactly I really don't see any reason why exactly I would lose this race. Because I pretty much have an entire lap over the rest of the field anyway. And it looks like both of the Evo 6s are now in the pits once again, and after 14 laps it looks like the rest of the field is pretty much separated up to this point. Because even though I managed to do well on the forward course, at the same time I don't manage to do as well on the reverse course. Because I'm pretty sure the AI are usually stronger than me on the reverse course compared to the forward course. I think that's the way this circuit works. It's the player essentially having the advantage on the forward course, and then it's the AI that have the advantage on the reverse course. Now, I don't know for sure if that is statistically true, but again, they are statistics that I can at least, object myself to. Even then, of course, if at the moment I have virtually no real objectives at all. Also, I'm pretty sure that I will have driven over 400 miles in this thing by the time this championship is over. Anyways, we have just 5 laps to go. the moment, it more or less looks like everything is more or less going to plan. And as I correctly predicted, I have now already overlapped both of the Land City Evo 6s once again, which oddly enough is one thing I anticipated I would do before this race was over. And I basically did that with over 4 laps to go. So yeah, kudos to myself for predicting that, even though it's not necessarily kudos because I already knew that was going to happen. And what do you know, packed grandstands, the one thing that we have in 2021 that we did not have in 2020. And I actually wasn't too far from my personal best on that lap. But overall, we still have 4 laps to go. In this race. And ultimately, it now looks as though I could also potentially overlap the Mustang for a second time before this race is done. And as I predicted, the Mustang is back in the pits once again. And so, this will be where I now overlap him for a second time, and that of course will pretty much be the end of the overlapping that I'm going to achieve in this race. And because I have that much more speed than the Mustang, because he's on pit road, obviously I've now overlapped pretty much half of the field in this race twice. Although oddly enough, of course, in 2021 we have actually seen packed grandstands over the grand scheme of things. Probably because everyone up to this point has probably received at least 1 dose of the vaccination. At least that's the way it is in this country, almost. Because over 90% of the entire population up to this point, including myself, has already been jabbed at least once, even though technically overall I've had 2 jabs from COVID. One of them I got in February, and the other one I got in May. Which is basically at about the same time of when I started this game. And well, here I am now, mid-September, just basically trying to see if I can get this game over with so I can focus more on my social life. Anyways, 2 laps to go, and I'm more or less going to get this race done in about somewhere over or just under 30 minutes. Even though I have noticed my tyres are starting to become victimised to degradation. I'm pretty sure the final lap is going to be uncontested. really have no idea who that was that made the pit stop, but I think that looks like the Skyline who stopped in for the second time. I guess he must have that much more. I guess he must have the more superior tyres than both the Nissan Z and the Cobra. I guess that's what the situation must be with the overcut. Anyways, final lap, and it looks as though it's going to be just over half an hour by the time I've completed this race, and then ultimately, once I have completed this race, there will just be one more in the segment to go, and then once I've done that, there will just be 3 races left, and that will ultimately be both the third and final part of this championship. And noticing somewhere on the left-hand side of my ride, but again, I'm pretty sure I can make these tyres last up to the end of the race before too much longer. Considering I did manage to do the Roadster Endurance with, I think, only 1 pit stop, as far as I know, but again, that's probably wrong. But I'm pretty sure I did do that in the space of just a single pit stop, but anyways. Okay, now the Skyline is in the pits. So I'm going to suspect that must have been... Could this be where I put him 2 laps down? I might just be able to. Okay, I have done. Anyways, 6 wins in a row, as I just put the Skyline 2 laps down. Alright, everyone has finished, and as a result of the Skyline pitting in right before I completed the final lap, as of which it took me just over 30 minutes to complete that race, I overlapped most of the field in that race twice. And so, these are the updated point standings. I now have a 24-point lead over the Nissan Z Concept, which means of course that all I really need to do is win the final race, and then once I have done that, that's the championship said and done for. And oddly enough, the Skyline is moving closer to the Mustang, but I don't think he's going to be in it to make it a Nissan 2.3, if you catch my drift. And so, it's now time for Deep Forest. And well, I'm just gonna get on with it, not waste too much of your time. Let's do this for the final race of part 2. This is where we conclude part 2 of the Polyphony Digital Cup in this game, and already the Z is moving up, meanwhile the Mustang at the moment is falling back again. And it does look as though the Skyline might be a possible contender for 3rd position before this championship is said and done for. And, oh damn it, I hit him. Did not mean to do that, but I still hit him anyway. And well, I would think up to this point, the Mustang really needs to start finishing on the podium once again, if he's going to get himself back in the hunt for 2nd position. Even though he has finished 3rd in 4 of the last 6 races, Whereas for myself and the Nissan Z, both of us have looked comfortably like we are just basically stealing the show, coherently speaking. And ultimately, up to this point, I would say it looks like the Z is once again going to be the only real man that will be competing against me for the race win. Although oddly enough, the AI don't necessarily seem to have the lackluster competence around deep forest reversals that do other circuits, and yeah, I didn't react to the contact he made with me. I mean, regardless of how heavy that contact was, I can always just react to that by giving him a little payback. Yeah. Normally I would have reacted to that, but again, I figured since I already had a 24-point lead heading into this race, I figured it would probably be the best time for me to not overreact to the displeasure of what exactly he was trying to cause. And I really cannot tell if that's the Mustang in third position or if that's the Skyline that is holding on to third position. I really cannot tell who exactly it is, but... And my TV is starting to do weird shit again. Why did it decide to do it now? I would probably have no idea. Although fortunately for me at least, I did have a headache tablet before starting this, because that was one thing I did have earlier on. From how much I was wearing my headphones earlier today, whilst I was in college. I did have a minor headache, but again, I figured it was probably the best possible option for me to take one tablet before I did this segment, because then I wouldn't be, stressing as much. It's just a traditional herbal remedy. And I have no idea why the engine thought I overwrote. And I really have no idea why the needle thought I overwrote that, but guess I just did. Although I am curious to know if that's the Mustang in third position, or if that is the Skyline which I see in third position. Well, I guess I won't officially know until the first round of pit stops, but I think it's still the Skyline ahead of the Mustang in their fight for third position. And oddly enough, that could be quite an interesting fight going into the final three races, which means of course it could very well be a Nissan 2-3 before this championship is done with. I mean, obviously it won't be a Nissan 1-2, because, well, I've clearly solidified that I am probably going to be the first placed finisher in this championship by some margin. But again, we'll just have to wait and see what exactly the remaining outcome is for this championship. Alright, so 4 laps are now on the board, and as I anticipated, I am once again pulling away from the rest of the field, and it looks as though both the Mustang and the Skyline have now separated themselves from both of the Mitsubishis. So, 4 laps are now complete. I am still leading this race by under 10 seconds, and it appears as though up to this point, this will be more or less another domination, because that is basically what I have been doing since more or less the start of this championship. Just basically taking the lead early and just dominating the rest of the race. Although oddly enough, I could have used my Mustang. I don't think it would have necessarily been, consistent enough to win these races. As I now set another new best lap time by over a second. Probably because I'm pushing that much harder than the AI in terms of actually, making an effort and trying to see if I can go for the wins, and oh fuck me. Fuck my ass. Although I do wonder who exactly is ahead up to this point. I wonder if it's the Mustang that's behind the skyline up to this point. I mean, that could very well be quite a tasty battle by the time this championship ends, to see who exactly will finish in third. I mean, oddly enough, the two Mitsubishis are still dicing it out for fifth. But again, it'll just depend on knowing, of course, if the end of this championship will be an America 2-3. I mean, obviously it won't be an all-American podium, because, well, I'm pretty sure the Nissan Z has already put that query to bed up to this point, and I'm pretty sure that any other opportunities the Mustang might have of clinching second position up to this point have more or less faded. Although I think it's the Skyline that's still ahead of the Cobra at the moment in terms of what the running order looks like, and indeed he is. So the Skyline is in front of the Mustang once again, like he was at Apricot Hill, and this could very well be a change in leadership for third position. This could very well be the case. And I keep forgetting I need to shift early once I get over that bump. And I cut the corner. Look at me, I am just not concentrating. Yeah, I don't know what it is, but somehow the car thinks I over-rev in the red zone when I go across those bumps. And oddly enough, it must be said, this is quite a bumpy course. Even with the improvements it has had from when this course was originally in GT1. This is still quite a bumpy course, it must be said. And I'm suspecting that's the main reason why the car thinks I'm over-revving. And is that going to put the Z back into second position? Yes, it is. Well, I know for sure that I'm not going to interfere with the battle for 5th position. So still have about another 12 laps to go in this race. I'm sure it will not take me very long to get through them. And why do I keep doing that? And my TV is starting to glitch out again. Which clearly says to me, of course, that sooner or later I will have to go for a higher quality TV than the one I'm currently using. Because the TV I'm using at the moment is basically just a high definition Panasonic in terms of the TV that I currently have. And I am wondering if sooner or later I should probably find a Sony TV sooner or later. You know, one of those Sony flat screens that I can probably get for cheap. Well, cheap by TV standards, because, well, used TVs that people end up buying these days are basically because most TVs that a lot of people end up buying these days are basically just worth about 500 quid. And of course, I still have another 10 laps to go following this one, though I'm pretty sure it will not take me too long to get through this as long as my TV does not black out on me. Which, oddly enough, of course, when my TV is glitching, that is exactly what I predict is going to happen. So I guess you could say there is some pessimism in the air, just thinking that my TV is going to fail at some point whilst I'm recording. And it's all just going to go terribly wrong. Up to a certain point. Although I'm not really having such problems at the moment. And this time, I do manage to go around the corner this time. Although, I'm hoping, of course, that for the sake of the Mustang, he will manage to finish on the podium, because then it will basically be a SNEC 1-3. Although that's probably just me, because many of you out there who might be Nissan supporters will probably be hoping for the Skyline to take home. We'll be hoping for the Skyline to take home 3rd position. Well, I really don't care what the final standings will be, as long as I know very well the Mustang will have some sort of success and not finishing last, then I really don't think there's anything else for me to speak of. Although oddly enough, of course, the Tommy Mackinnon edition Evo 6 has actually been running amongst the Mustang and the Skyline. They've both been tantalisingly close to the leaders, and they've actually had some reasonable pace. Come on, don't hit the arm code, don't hit the arm code. Okay, I did not hit the guardrail this time. And yes, by the way, both the Armco barrier and the guardrail in those regards are basically the same thing. So, I went deep into the corner, but at least I wasn't deep enough to go straight into the wall like I did. And really had to deep on the brakes in order to prevent the car from just darting into the wall. And, yep, okay. And the Skyline at the moment is currently ahead of the Cobra. So, it looks as though the GT Touring car is ahead of the Snack, as it currently stands. Although, I am hoping, of course, that the Snack will manage to put up a competition of some sort. Well, I'd actually have to help him here, but again, I am hoping that he can manage to possibly take third place in this race if we can reduce the mistakes. Anyways, I'm overlapping both of these guys now, so dependent on knowing if the Snack can actually manage to get the manoeuvre done or not, that remains to be seen. And this could be for third place, and he does now move up into third position as a result of me being there. And that, of course, is what I call teamwork. Snack v Snack. Sorry. Two Snacks working in alliance to helping it become a double podium for the Serpentine. To effectively becoming a double podium for the Serpentine. Yeah, I think I worded that correctly. Yeah, a double podium for the Serpentine. And the reason why I'm technically short-shifting under those regards is because when I go over these bumps, apparently I over-rev the engine once I'm in the red zone, and I'm basically over those bumps once I enter the red zone, so I basically have to short shift just to get through those gears. Anyways, I've now overlapped the entire field once again, unsurprisingly. And of course, I have once again, unsurprisingly, overlapped the entire field, as I have been doing pretty much throughout this championship, more or less look like I will be doing for the rest of the championship. And well, simple reason for that, well, because tyre longevity. Basically the one reason why I've managed to stay out in front for this long. Well, tyre durability as well as longevity, the only two reasons why I've been leading races this much in the game. Well, leading the races by so much in this championship. So I'm now getting hungry. But again, I need to try and see if I can finish this race before I go for my dinner, because then it means, of course, that I will not be disturbed going into the final portion of the championship, where it will officially be races 8 to 10. Anyways, I think the Snack by now has officially been secure for the championship. Sorry, has officially secured third position up to this point from the Skyline, although I'm pretty sure another pit stop is yet to happen, so this could still be all to play for over who exactly will eventually finish in third, because the Skyline has actually managed to put on the charge for 2 of the first 6 races, and this could potentially be another one where he could very well be in contention for third position with the Mustang. Even though it would be nice to see the Ford taking third position away from the Skyline, as of which the Snack does now come into the pits, as does the Skyline, so I would think that's pretty much put my theories to bed of knowing if one will best the other. as of which, technically, I did of course play a part in helping the Mustang to secure third position up to this point, and all he really has to do now is just keep the mistakes to a bare minimum. And it is easy to see why the AI are getting caught out by that bump. Right after... what is it? The second tunnel? Yeah. Being caught out by that bump after the second tunnel, because I have noticed the AI just tend to pretty much just go straight into the outside wall. Right up to the point of where I almost think for sure that they're not doing it. That they're doing it deliberately. Right, so just 4 laps to go. Managing to keep myself on the white lines of the track limits, not exceeding them up to this point. I've not managed to best on my 1 minute 21.2 lap time up to this point. Although here is to hoping of course that by the time we enter 2022 we will more or less be back to as much nominal normalcy as we can get. Hopefully. Pretty much as much current normalcy as we can get. And then of course if normalcy at the moment is part of complete irrelevancy. Okay, well, lap times at the moment aren't falling too far off. Although, I probably would say by now that I've driven over 300 miles as far as this race goes. My V10 Mercedes engine is once again just pretty much stonking the rest of the field as it currently stands. Even though I am technically in an overpowered car, but the truth is, to those of you who will be complaining about how I've been dominating this race, the truth is, I really don't care. Because up to this point, I really don't give a shit. Trust me, I absolutely do not give a flying pig shit about how much I've been dominating this championship, because I do not have too much time left on my hands at the moment, and I figure since the evening is only really the best time I can actually do this, and I beat my PB finally, and it took me literally 18 laps to do. Sorry. When did I set the previous one? Sorry. Probably 14 or 15 laps to actually best my previous personal best. I think it was like 15 laps ago when I set that previous lap time. Anyways. Just got 1 lap to go after this one, and then once I am done, we will have just 3 races to go. And I am still continuing to get caught out by that bump, which is probably the main reason why the AI have just literally darted into that corner. They've just literally been darting into that corner pretty much lap after lap. That's the only real excuse I can think of over why exactly they're doing it so much. I mean, that might just be me, yes, but I think that probably is the main reason for why they just keep doing it. It's got to be that bump after the second tunnel on this reverse course that's just ultimately, you know, causing them to just pretty much dive straight into the wall. I think that's what the case is. That could just be me, but I think that's what the case is. And it looks as though I am going to get this race done in just under 28 minutes. But then again, I do like Deep Forest. I mean, even though Deep Forest is quite bumpy with the way it looks, the truth is, I still think it's more or less a good circuit in spite of the bumps, as I now overlap the second of the two Evo 6s twice. I think it might be just under 28 minutes actually, as I now head through the final corner and across the start finish line we go, and fastest lap on the final lap. Okay, 7 races are done. Alright, there we go. Everyone has finished. And like I have been doing pretty much throughout the championship, I once again won by an entire lap. And officially, the Cobra has fought back on the skyline to fend off from his challengers to eventually finishing in 3rd. Even though I did of course play a big part in that when I was overlapping both of them. These are the standings after 7 races, and I'm pretty sure this will be where I have more or less clinched the championship. Even though I still need to win the next race to be secure, I'm pretty sure we're Gucci for the championship. And I just remembered that I need to save a replay, so that's what I'm going to do. So, saving part 2 of the Polyphony Digital Cup, and officially that will conclude this segment, and where next time we shall be doing part 3. So I shall see you in part 3.